Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to Humaning, the podcast where we explore what it really means to be alive, awake, and, well, human. I'm Alina, and I'm so grateful you're tuning in with us today. Whether you're walking, cooking, or just taking a mindful pause, we're honored to share this space with you. Today, we're diving into a topic that I think a lot of us dance around, especially those curious about spirituality or self-growth. Mindfulness without meditation. What does it mean to be mindful if you don't want or can't sit cross-legged for 30 minutes every morning? How can mindfulness show up in our everyday, messy, beautiful lives? Elias, I am so looking forward to unpacking this with you.
Oh, I love this already. Hey everyone, I'm Elias. Honestly, Alina, just hearing you say mindfulness without meditation makes my shoulders drop a little because I know for a fact meditation doesn't always feel accessible or even appealing to everyone. I mean, I've tried the whole sit in stillness and watch your breath thing, and sometimes it's magic, but other times my mind is just a wild horse galloping through my to-do list. So I'm really excited to dig into how mindfulness can weave into regular life, outside those traditional meditation moments. And before we get too deep, if you're enjoying these conversations, it means the world to us if you like, subscribe, or share the podcast. It's honestly the best way to support what we're building here on Humaning, and it helps us reach more people like you.
Yes, thank you for saying that, Elias. Even just a quick tap on like or subscribing makes such a difference. Okay, so let's get into it. I think there's a really widespread belief that mindfulness and meditation are the same thing, like you can't have one without the other. But for me, mindfulness is more like a way of being present with whatever is happening, inside and out. It's an openness to the moment, whether I'm sitting in silence or just waiting in line at the grocery store. I'd love to hear, how do you define mindfulness when you're not meditating?
That's such a good question. To me, mindfulness is like it's a kind of gentle noticing. It's the difference between eating dinner while scrolling on my phone, barely tasting anything, and actually noticing the warmth of the food or the way the spices hit my tongue, or just taking a breath before the next bite. I think of it like learning to listen to life as it unfolds, not just reacting to it on autopilot. And honestly, I probably get more of these mindful moments when I'm out in the world, walking in the park, washing dishes, than I ever have sitting on a cushion. Have you found that too, Alina? Are there places in your regular day where mindfulness just happens?
Oh, absolutely. Sometimes I think my most mindful moments come when I'm gardening. There's this patch of earth in my backyard, and I'll just get my hands in the soil, feel the texture, notice the way the light changes on the leaves. I'm not thinking about being spiritual or doing mindfulness, I just am. And I think that's the heart of it, right? It's about presence, not performance. And I've had people tell me they feel guilty if they don't meditate because they think they're failing at mindfulness. But I really believe you can be deeply mindful while doing the laundry, or listening to a friend, or even just pausing to feel your feet on the ground.
Yes, that presence, not performance, is so real. I used to have this idea that unless I was doing mindfulness right, like with the perfect posture and the soft bell sounds, I was missing the point. But the older I get, the more I find those little pockets of mindfulness in the messiness. Like I remember this one time I was running late for work and I spilled coffee all over my shirt. Old me would have spiraled, like instant panic, shame, the whole thing. But that morning, for whatever reason, I just stopped, felt the warmth of the coffee on my skin, took a breath and noticed, oh, I'm irritated. My heart's pounding. But also, and this is kind of funny, that 3-second pause changed the whole mood of the day for me.
That's such a beautiful story. And I love how you noticed your reaction, but didn't judge it. I think that's a huge part of mindfulness too, the allowing. Like, oh, here's frustration, here's embarrassment. Just letting them be guests in the house, not locking them out or shaming yourself for feeling them.
Exactly. I sometimes think of mindfulness as making friends with whatever's here, even if it's uncomfortable or awkward. And I wonder, Alina, do you think there's this pressure in the spiritual world to always be zen, to always be calm? How do you approach those moments when you're anything but calm?
Oh, I feel that pressure all the time. There's this myth that if you're mindful or spiritual, you should be unflappable, always peaceful. But honestly, I think real mindfulness is about being honest with yourself. If I'm angry or anxious or just totally frazzled, I try to notice that with gentleness. Like, hey, this is what's true right now. Sometimes I'll even say it out loud, just to break the spell. Wow, I'm really overwhelmed. There's so much power in naming it without making it wrong.
That's so true. And it makes me think sometimes the most mindful thing we can do is just notice, I'm not being mindful at all right now. And that's okay. I used to beat myself up for losing awareness, but now I try to just notice those moments too. Like, oh, I've been on autopilot for an hour. Interesting. And then gently come back, maybe with a breath or just by feeling my hands.
Yes, that gentle coming back. It's like mindfulness isn't a destination, it's a continual homecoming. And I love that you mentioned the breath because I think that's one of the simplest ways to practice mindfulness anywhere, anytime. I'll sometimes just pause in the middle of a hectic day and notice one breath, just one. It's amazing how much that can shift your whole inner landscape.
Definitely. And for people listening who feel intimidated by the whole idea of mindfulness, I want to say it doesn't have to be anything elaborate. Sometimes, even just paying attention to the feeling of your feet on the floor or the weight of your body in a chair can be a doorway back to presence. Honestly, some of my most powerful experiences of mindfulness have come not in silence, but in chaos, like in a crowded subway car or when my mind is racing at night. It's about meeting yourself where you are.
I love that. Meeting yourself where you are. And I think another piece of this is curiosity. If we can approach our lives with just a little more curiosity, what's happening inside me right now? What am I noticing in the world around me? That's mindfulness, too. It doesn't have to be this serious, disciplined endeavor. Sometimes it's as simple as savoring a cup of tea or really listening to a friend's laughter.
Absolutely. And actually, that reminds me, I had this neighbor growing up, an older woman who I used to think was a little eccentric. She would always stop to watch the clouds or notice the way the wind moved through the trees. As a kid, I didn't get it, but now I see she was practicing a kind of everyday mindfulness just by being present with the world as it unfolded. It wasn't about clearing her mind or achieving enlightenment. It was just about being alive to the moment.
That's so lovely. I think children and animals are often our best teachers in this. My dog, for example, doesn't meditate, but she's always attentive, sniffing the air, wagging her tail, fully present. And little kids, too. They're just immersed in whatever they're doing. Maybe the real secret to mindfulness isn't adding something new, but remembering how to be present the way we were as kids.
I love that. And it's funny. Sometimes we get so caught up in trying to do mindfulness that we forget it's our natural state. It's just that life piles up responsibilities, worries, distractions, and we forget. So maybe for anyone listening, the invitation isn't to add another thing to your to-do list, but to notice the mindful moments that are already there. Like when you're laughing with a friend, or really tasting your food, or feeling the sun on your skin.
Yes, yes, yes. And I think it's also about permission, giving ourselves permission to define mindfulness in our own way. Maybe for someone, it's painting, or dancing, or gardening, or just taking a mindful walk. It doesn't have to look any particular way. There's so much freedom in that.
Totally. And actually, can I ask you, are there any little rituals or daily practices that help you drop into mindfulness outside of formal meditation?
That's a great question. One thing I love to do is what I call a mindful transition. So, anytime I'm moving from one activity to another, like finishing a work call and getting ready for dinner, I'll take a few seconds to pause. Sometimes I'll close my eyes, feel my body, and just notice, okay, that's done. What's next? It's such a small thing, but it helps me reset and actually arrive in the next moment, rather than dragging all my thoughts and stress with me.
Oh, I love that. That little pause is so powerful. I do something kind of similar. I call it noticing the threshold. Like when I walk through a doorway, I try to use it as a cue to check in with myself. How am I feeling? Am I rushing? Can I take one conscious breath? I definitely don't remember every time, but when I do, it feels like a little act of self care.
That's such a beautiful practice, and it's so accessible. Doorways, transitions, breaths. These are things we all have in our daily lives. I think the more we can anchor mindfulness to ordinary moments, the more it becomes a natural part of who we are, not just something we do.
Yes. And I've noticed that when I'm more mindful in these small ways, I'm actually kinder to myself and to others. Like I'm less reactive, more patient. I think that's one of the gifts of mindfulness. It softens the edges of our days, makes life feel a little more spacious.
Absolutely. It's like creating little pockets of ease, even in the middle of chaos. And for anyone listening who feels like mindfulness is out of reach, maybe because you have kids, or a demanding job, or chronic stress, I really want to say, it's okay to start small. Even 5 seconds of presence is enough. There's no right or wrong way to practice.
That's so important to hear. And I want to add, if you fall off the mindfulness wagon, that's human. We all do. It's not about perfection, it's about returning again and again with gentleness. I think there's a real beauty in that.
I couldn't agree more. And sometimes, I think the most mindful thing we can do is simply to forgive ourselves for not being mindful and then begin again. There's so much grace in that.
Yes. And I think that's what makes mindfulness feel spiritual to me. Not because it's lofty or esoteric, but because it brings us closer to the truth of our experience and to each other. When I'm really present with someone or with myself, there's a kind of quiet connection that feels sacred.
That's so beautifully said, Elias. I really resonate with that feeling. The way presence creates a kind of intimacy, both with ourselves and with the world around us. It's almost like the ordinary becomes extraordinary when we just notice it fully. And I think, honestly, that's what so many of us are craving. Not just a break from our busy minds, but a way of feeling more alive, more connected, even in the midst of daily routines.
Completely. And what you just said made me think of this little moment I had the other day. I was standing at the sink, washing a pile of dishes. Nothing glamorous, just like suds and plates and leftover spaghetti sauce. And for whatever reason, I just stopped thinking about what I had to do next and felt the warm water, the slickness of the plate, the sound of the faucet. It was 3 minutes maybe, but it felt kind of holy. I didn't plan it. I wasn't trying to meditate. But there was this sense of peace that washed over me just by being exactly where my hands were.
I love that story. Honestly, that's the heart of it, right? It's not about escaping life, but soaking into it more fully. Sometimes I think we get this idea that spirituality has to be something separate from our regular lives, but I actually think it's the opposite. Spirituality, for me, is about bringing sacred attention to the things that seem mundane. Mindfulness without meditation allows us to weave that sacredness into every moment, not just the ones we set aside for practice.
Yes, and it's so much more forgiving too. Because let's be real, not everyone has the luxury of carving out 30 minutes of silence. Some people are parenting, some are working double shifts, some are just wired differently. I know for me there are days where sitting still feels impossible, and I used to beat myself up about that. Like, if I can't meditate, am I failing at mindfulness? But now I try to remember that life itself is the practice. The way I greet my neighbor, the way I notice a bird outside my window, those are all invitations to presence.
Absolutely. And I think there's also something liberating about giving ourselves permission to find our own doorways into mindfulness. For me, music is a huge one. Sometimes I'll just sit and listen, really listen, to a song. Not analyzing, not thinking about anything else, just letting the sounds wash through me. It's not meditation in the traditional sense, but it's deeply mindful. Do you have any unconventional mindfulness practices, Elias? Things that wouldn't be found in a book, but really work for you?
Oh, I love that question. Honestly, for me, poetry is a big one, both reading and writing it. There's something about the rhythm of language, the way a poem can distill a moment, that helps me drop into presence. Sometimes I'll just walk around my neighborhood and notice little things, a crack in the sidewalk, the way the sunlight lands on a parked car. And I'll make a mental note like, that's a poem. It's a way of paying attention that feels playful, not forced. And sometimes even just talking to strangers, like really listening to someone at the grocery store, brings me into the now. It's all mindfulness in my book.
That's beautiful. I think there's something about creativity, whether it's poetry, music, art, even cooking, that pulls us into mindfulness without us realizing it. We're just absorbed. I think that's such an important point for anyone listening. Mindfulness doesn't have to look like what you see on Instagram or in self-help books. It can be messy, creative, spontaneous.
Absolutely. And honestly, sometimes mindfulness is just about being real with what is, even if it's not comfortable. Like I remember a night not long ago when I couldn't sleep. My mind was racing with worries, and I kept telling myself, you should be more mindful. You should calm down. But eventually I just let myself lay there and feel the anxiety without trying to change it. I paid attention to the way my heart was beating, the tightness in my chest. I even whispered to myself, it's okay to feel this. And somehow, just that simple act of noticing without resistance softened things a bit. It wasn't peaceful exactly, but it was honest. And I think that's a form of mindfulness too.
Oh, definitely. I actually think that's one of the most courageous forms of mindfulness. Being present with discomfort without running away or fixing it. That's real spiritual work, in my experience, and it feels so much more compassionate than forcing ourselves to be calm or think positive. Sometimes the most mindful thing is just to say, this is hard, and I'm here with it.
Absolutely. And I think there's an invitation there for all of us to let go of perfectionism around mindfulness. It doesn't need to be Instagram worthy. It doesn't need to be blissful. It just needs to be real. Even if all you do is take one conscious breath in the middle of a stressful day, that's enough.
Yes. And for anyone listening who feels like mindfulness is just another thing they're supposed to do, I want to offer this. You're already mindful more often than you realize. Every time you notice a beautiful sky or take a deep breath, or really listen to a friend, you are practicing mindfulness. It's not an achievement, it's a way of being that we can return to again and again.
That's such a comforting reminder. I think sometimes we just need someone to tell us we're already on the path, even if it doesn't look perfect. I want to ask you, Alina, have you ever had a moment where you realized you were being mindful in a totally unexpected place? Like somewhere you'd never think of as spiritual?
Oh, so many times. One that comes to mind is actually at the DMV of all places. I was waiting in line, surrounded by people who were clearly frustrated and bored. At first, I felt my own impatience rising, but then I just looked around and started to really notice people. Their faces, their body language, the little stories you can see in someone's eyes. I felt this wave of compassion like, wow, everyone here has a whole universe inside them. Suddenly, the wait didn't seem so bad. I just let myself be there, not needing it to be different. It was such a small thing, but it shifted the whole experience.
I love that. It's so relatable. I think there's something profound about taking these in-between moments, waiting rooms, traffic lights, even doing chores, and turning them into opportunities for presence. It's like life is always offering us these little invitations to wake up if we're willing to accept them.
Exactly, and I think the more we practice this, the more natural it becomes. I used to think I had to set aside special time for mindfulness, but now it's more like a thread that weaves through my day. Of course, I still forget and get swept up in stress or distraction. But then I remember, oh, right, I can come back to this moment. I can breathe. I can notice.
Yes, and honestly, I think that's one of the gifts of talking about this stuff together. When we share our experiences, our struggles, our little wins, it makes the practice feel more human, more accessible. I hope people listening feel that too, that you don't have to do it alone and you don't have to do it perfectly.
Absolutely. Community makes such a difference. Even just hearing that someone else finds mindfulness in messy, unexpected places makes it feel more doable. I sometimes imagine all of us, scattered around the world, pausing for a breath in our own ways, connected by this thread of awareness.
That's a beautiful image. And it makes me want to invite our listeners, if you're comfortable, maybe try noticing one mindful moment today. It could be anything, the way the light looks in your room, the sound of your breath, the feeling of your hands. See if you can just be with it for a few seconds without judgment. And if you want, share it with someone, even us. Leave a comment, send a message. We'd love to hear your stories.
Yes, please do. Your stories inspire us too. And remember, there's no such thing as a small moment. Every bit of presence counts. Maybe you notice the way your coffee smells, or the sound of rain, or the softness of your pillow at night. That's mindfulness. That's living fully.
And if you forget or get lost in thought, that's human. That's why we call this podcast Humaning, after all. We're all figuring it out as we go, returning to presence, one moment at a time.
Exactly. And I think there's something really hopeful about that. Mindfulness isn't about never getting distracted or upset. It's about remembering that we can always begin again. Every moment is new. Every breath is a chance to return.
I love that. And you know, as we start to wind down this conversation, I just want to thank everyone for being here with us. Whether you're new to mindfulness or you've been exploring it for years, we're so grateful for your presence and your curiosity. If this episode resonated with you, it really helps if you like, subscribe, or share Humaning with a friend. That way, we can keep building this community and having these honest, heart-centered conversations.
Yes, thank you so much for listening and for supporting us. And remember, mindfulness belongs to all of us, not just to those who meditate, but to anyone willing to show up notice, and be present with life as it is. We hope today's conversation has given you some new ideas, or maybe just some encouragement to trust your own way of being mindful.
And if you have thoughts, stories, or questions, we'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment, send us a message, or just take a moment to connect with someone in your life about what you heard today. That's how we all keep growing together.
Thank you for sharing this time and space with us. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, may you find small moments of presence, kindness, and peace today.
Take care, everyone. Be gentle with yourselves. We can't wait to connect with you again on the next episode of Humaning.
Until next time, keep humaning, keep noticing, and remember, you're never alone. Goodbye, friends.
Goodbye, everyone.